So being paid like royalty or taking less to win it all? I'm guessing enlightenment under a waterfall really worked for you, Joe, didn't it? This is a question that has really plagued a lot of players through the course of sports history. Way back in the late 50s, Stan Musial, the Hall of Famer of the St. Louis Cardinals, took a pay cut in 58 and 59 after he underperformed the years prior. That being said, this was before salaries of sports players became woefully inflated, so maybe a better comparison would be Zach Greinke. While not signing a contract per se, after the 2010 season he was traded to the Milwaukee Brewers. But before that he was almost traded to the Washington Nationals. However, he vetoed the trade after he took a hard look at the Washington system and saw that he would hurt the team more if he was traded to them than if he was sent somewhere else and the rebuild process in Washington was left to its own devices. Other contracts, LeBron James left money on the table reportedly to head back to Cleveland after a stint in Miami. The infamous Bobby Bonilla deal with the Mets and the Baltimore Orioles examples to recreate it with Chris Davis. These are cases when the team is paying the player less now but is deferring it in the long run. In the case with the Mets, the deal went south quickly, and Bobby Bonilla Day is woefully remembered by many a Met fan. Hopefully the Baltimore Orioles don't have the same problem with Chris Davis. As for me, Joe, I'd be willing to take that less money so that the better team can be built around me, because we have a great example of what an overpaid, underperforming team looks like. And for once, it's not the New York Knicks. The Miami Marlins, who's a great example of spending the wealth in all the wrong places. Yeah, sure, Giancarlo Stanton, the best power hitter in baseball right now, who's on track for 60 home runs, he's worth paying the money. And like some of the other players I mentioned, he took some deferred money now so that a better team could be built around him now. His first 3 years of his mega deal contract paid him only $30 million collectively, while the remaining 10 years will pay him no less than $25 million a year. However, Jeffrey Loria, the former owner of the Miami Marlins, I'll get to that in a bit, did not spread the wealth around in the best places. So how bad are the Marlins? Well, they haven't had a winning season since 2009 for one, which was when they were called the Florida Marlins, not the Miami Marlins. They have over $90 million tied up into 8 players going into next season, before accounting to any salary raises or free agents. Add to that a farm system at the bottom of the league, a stadium that attracts nobody, a television contract that pays nothing, and you can see why the Marlins are losing $40–50 million a year after the last several years. Now, as I alluded to, Jeffrey Loria, who once before ran the Montreal Expos into the ground and now has done so with the Miami Marlins, has sold the team to a consortium including the likes of Derek Jeter, and he has a very big challenge ahead of him. By my accounts, the Marlins need 1–2 starters maybe, a third baseman, a shortstop, a couple of relievers, maybe even a closer. And in a vacuum, guys like Mike Moustakas, Yu Darvish, Wade Davis would be perfect fits for them if they weren't hemorrhaging money and already had too much tied into the payroll. So for once, this isn't just me. This is a lot of baseball reporters, sports reporters, financial experts saying that Derek Jeter has a very big uphill battle in returning the Marlins to the relevancy that he expects them to be. But how does Derek Jeter get out of it? Does he bite the bullet, trade Giancarlo Stanton for this great prospect haul, but in the process alienate the remaining Marlins fans? Does he weather the storm and wait for the contracts to run out? Do they pour more money into the franchise and risk defaulting maybe? Joe, what do you think? Because this is one answer that even I have trouble getting to.